It's not always archaeologists or historians who make the history-changing finds. Sometimes it's regular people going about their business who accidentally stumble on the greatest discoveries. And sometimes it can be a badger. It doesn't matter who makes the discovery. What matters is what they find. Because not everything left behind by our ancestors can be explained. And the best examples you can think of are things like the giant stone heads of Easter Island, the Nazca lines of Peru, or the strange Liangzhu artifacts of China. So, stay tuned, because today we'll be looking at the 15 most mysterious ancient discoveries that still raise perplexing questions. Number 15. Cueva de los Tallos, the Cueva de los Tallos, aka the Cave of the Oilbirds, is the most mysterious limestone cave in the Amazon rainforest of Ecuador. In 1969, explorer Juan Moritz didn't merely tell stories about what he claimed to have found in the Amazon. He signed a formal notarized declaration before Ecuadorian authorities, stating that inside the cave system are chambers that contain thousands of engraved metallic plates preserving the history of an unknown civilization. If the statement was false, he knowingly risked criminal prosecution. Then, 7 years later, a 200-member British-Ecuadorian expedition entered the caves, bringing scientists, military experts, indigenous Shuar guides, and even Neil Armstrong as honorary president. The caves were real, but the promised scientific report addressing Moritz's strange claim never came. Neil later remarked that the most important discovery of his life was not the moon, but what he saw in Ecuador, though he never revealed what he meant. The caves remain heavily restricted today, leaving one question unanswered. What convinced the first man on the moon to stay silent for the rest of his life? Number 14. The Barrier Canyon figures. These figures painted across canyon walls in Utah are just strange. They have been staring out from the rock for thousands of years, and no one can say with certainty who they were meant to represent. Archaeologists call this the Barrier Canyon style, one of North America's oldest rock art traditions. These figures are impossible to mistake. Their bodies narrow toward the bottom with no visible legs. Their heads are unusually large. Most have enormous dark eyes, yet almost none have a mouth or a nose. Some even show thin lines extending from the head or neck, details repeated across hundreds of miles of canyon walls. Nearby, the same artists painted people and animals with perfectly recognizable features, proving they knew human anatomy well. Researchers usually interpret these figures as supernatural beings connected with ancient religious beliefs, while several Native American traditions also describe powerful sky beings linked with the landscape. Even so, no explanation has answered why the same unusual design was repeated so consistently for centuries, or what the artists believed they were preserving. Number 13. The Lost City of Z. By 1925, Colonel Percy Fawcett knew the Amazon rainforest better than almost anyone alive. After surviving 3 expeditions, he returned once more, convinced an ancient city was somewhere beyond the unexplored forests of Brazil. His belief rested on manuscript 512, an 18th-century Portuguese account describing ruined plazas, huge stone buildings, mysterious inscriptions, and a forgotten civilization hidden deep inland. Fawcett called the place simply Z. On May 29, 1925, he sent his final letter. It wasn't the message of a frightened explorer. It carried the confidence of someone convinced he was only days away from success. Then he, his son Jack, and Raleigh Ramel vanished without a trace. More than 100 people later died or vanished trying to solve the mystery. Decades later, archaeologists using satellite surveys and LiDAR found vast networks of ancient settlements in the very region Fawcett believed held his lost city. History proved the city existed. The only mystery left was whether Fawcett ever made it here. Number 12. Hemet maize stone. Back in 1914, a California rancher noticed strange carvings on a large boulder sitting on his property. Thinking they were nothing more than recent graffiti, he paid little attention to them. It wasn't until later that experts realized the markings had probably been there for decades. Today, the boulder is known as the Hemet maize stone, one of North America's most unusual petroglyphs. The central design is often mistaken for a swastika, but it predates Nazi Germany by hundreds of years and is much closer to symbols used throughout ancient Asia, particularly in Buddhist traditions. Similar carvings have been discovered elsewhere in Southern California, yet none match the exact shape and proportions of this one. A handful of related designs found within roughly 150 miles inspired speculation that travelers from across the Pacific, perhaps survivors of a Chinese shipwreck, somehow reached the region long before Europeans. There's no evidence proving that idea, but neither has anyone explained who carved the stone or why. Number 11. The Jade King Axe. Among the thousands of objects found in the Liangzhu tombs, this one is truly unique. It isn't because of its size. It's because of what someone managed to carve into it. Archaeologists call it the King of Jade Axe, a ceremonial blade nearly 7 inches across, cut from a single piece of nephrite jade. The edge was never sharpened. It was never meant for battle. Instead, every eye is drawn toward the tiny figure carved near the top. A human-like face, wearing an elaborate headdress, appears to stand above a strange beast with bulging eyes and sharp fangs. The engraving is astonishingly small. In places, several parallel lines fit inside just 1 millimeter, a level of detail that pushes the limits of modern hand carving. Even experienced jade craftsmen in China have admitted they struggle to reproduce work of this quality using the tools experts believe were available. 5,000 years later, the axe still leaves behind the same strange question. Were ancient craftsmen really capable of this? Or are we missing part of the story? Number 10. Koh Ker. We know that powerful empires usually expand around an established capital, but the Khmer Empire did the exact opposite. In 921 AD, King Jayavarman IV abandoned Angkor and ordered a new capital to rise deep inside Cambodia's forests. Over the next 2 decades, thousands of workers built Koh Ker, a vast ceremonial city dominated by Prasat Tom, a 7-tiered pyramid dedicated to Shiva, the Hindu god of destruction. Then, almost as suddenly as it appeared, the city was abandoned. The buildings remained untouched, but nearly 80,000 people simply left. Archaeologists later found something far more chilling. Buried near the pyramid were dozens of human skulls arranged deliberately, many showing cut marks consistent with ritual decapitation. The deposit is believed to contain several hundred skulls. Even stranger, no Khmer inscription explains why the capital was deserted only a generation after its completion. Recent LiDAR surveys have revealed more than 1,000 hidden structures still concealed beneath the jungle. Number 9. The buried staircase of the Giza plateau. Most people know the 3 great pyramids at Giza, but for decades, another story has refused to disappear. Ancient writers spoke of a 4th pyramid, but no convincing trace of it was ever found. Then, in 2018, experts working inside a restricted section of the Giza plateau found a stone staircase that somehow disappeared deep beneath the desert. The entrance lies inside a military-controlled area that very few archaeologists have been allowed to study. The staircase drops roughly 125 feet before reaching a series of flooded chambers cut into the bedrock. Along the walls sit carved niches containing granite and basalt sarcophagi, although every one of them had already been opened long before modern excavations began. Ancient historian Herodotus described similar underground burial structures at Memphis, suggesting this wasn't an isolated design. One chamber contains a single stone coffin covered with odd carved symbols. Some have even rushed to call it the Tomb of Osiris, but there is no evidence supporting that claim. Number 8. Shimao stone faces. For decades, this enormous site in northern China was dismissed as nothing more than part of the Great Wall. Then, archaeologists began excavating it in 2012 and realized they were standing inside the remains of a forgotten city, unlike anything they expected. Known as Shimao, the settlement dates to around 2300 BC and covers more than 400 hectares, complete with massive stone walls and a stepped pyramid rising above the surrounding hills. But there is one discovery that steals the attention almost immediately. Carved directly into huge stone blocks are dozens of mysterious human-like faces with wide circular eyes, heavy brows, and striking expressions that don't resemble later Chinese art. Some of those same facial designs also appear on Liangzhu jade artifacts found over 1,300 kilometers away. Was that simply a coincidence? Or were these distant cultures somehow connected? Well, no record explains the link. Number 7. The Flying Ship. In the King's Mirror now. Books written during the Middle Ages usually mix practical advice with stories meant to teach a lesson, but one passage in the King's Mirror has puzzled readers for centuries. Written in Norway around 1250 as a dialogue between a father and his son, the manuscript discusses government, religion, law, and the responsibilities of rulers. Then, without warning, it tells a remarkable story from Ireland. During a church service, an anchor supposedly crashed through the doorway from the sky. When the congregation rushed outside, they saw a ship floating high above them as though it were sailing across the sea. According to the account, several crewmen climbed down toward the anchor, moving through the air as naturally as sailors crossing a deck. Unable to free it, they abandoned the effort, climbed back aboard, and the vessel slowly drifted away. Whether the tale was meant as history or moral teaching is still debated. Number 6. The White City. Christopher Columbus reached the coast of Honduras in 1502, but somewhere beyond those shores. Stories spoke of another city few people had ever seen. Decades later, even Hearn courts mentioned a wealthy settlement hidden deep inside the Musquitia rainforest, claiming it rivaled the riches of great American civilizations. Indigenous communities knew the place too, but they never treated it like a lost city waiting to be found. They called it a place no one should enter. For centuries, explorers disappeared into the jungle searching for it, only to return empty-handed. But everything changed in 2012 when LiDAR scanners stripped away the forest canopy and revealed plazas, pyramids, roads, and earthworks spread across the landscape. The legend was real. Then came the expedition. Archaeologists reached the ruins in 2015, but several members left carrying severe cases of leishmaniasis, a disease capable of destroying skin and facial tissue. Later surveys found unusually high concentrations of infected sandflies inside the ancient city's boundaries. Well, now this is not normal. What's your wild take on it? Number 5. Secret chambers beneath Masada. Masada has stood above the Judean desert for more than 2,000 years, overlooking one of history's most famous last stands. According to the 1st century historian Josephus, 1,000 Jewish rebels chose death over surrender when Roman forces finally captured the fortress in 74 C. For generations, that account has shaped everything people believe about the site. Recent investigations, however, suggest the story may not end at the surface. Researchers believe large underground spaces could still lie beneath parts of the fortress, untouched since antiquity. Some think they were built as shelters during the Roman siege. Others believe Herod the Great, who turned Masada into a luxurious palace fortress decades earlier, ordered them constructed for his own protection. Until those hidden areas are fully explored, both possibilities remain open. The challenge is that almost everything we know about Masada comes from a single historical source, Josephus himself. If future excavations reveal something unexpected beneath the fortress, they may force historians to reconsider one of the ancient world's most famous stories. Number 4. The Beardmore relics, a genuine artifact, can lose almost all of its historical value the moment people stop trusting where it came from. That's exactly what happened to the Beardmore relics. The collection includes a Viking sword, an axe head, and an iron fitting believed to have belonged to a shield. They were reportedly discovered near Beardmore, Ontario during the 1930s and eventually found their way into the Royal Ontario Museum, where they remained on display for years. Then, everything changed. During an investigation in the 1950s, doubts began growing over the story behind the discovery. Later, the discoverer's own son claimed his father had buried the objects himself before pretending to uncover them. Even with that confession, the artifacts were eventually returned to public display because experts still considered them authentic Viking objects. The problem was never the relics themselves. It was their missing context. Without knowing where they truly came from, nobody can say whether they reached Canada centuries ago, arrived through trade, or were brought there much later by completely different hands. Number 3. The graves of medieval chieftains' badgers usually find worms, roots, or the occasional rabbit hole. Well, this one found medieval history. On a farm near Stolpe in northeastern Germany, a badger spent years expanding its underground den. In 2012, it finally pushed a human pelvic bone onto the surface, catching the farmer's attention. Archaeologists were called in, and what they found surprised everyone. Hidden beneath the field were 8 graves dating back to the 12th century. 2 belonged to high-ranking Slavic chieftains, buried with bronze bowls beside their feet, a 3-foot-long double-edged sword, an arrowhead, ornate belt fittings shaped like snake heads, and, in one grave, a coin carefully placed inside the dead man's mouth. That single coin revealed something unexpected. It reflected an ancient pagan funeral custom that historians believed had vanished from the region by that time, after Christianity had already taken hold. Luckily, these traditions survived much longer than anyone realized, buried beneath a badger's home for 900 years. Number 2. The Saqqara bird. Back in 1898, archaeologists working through the contents of a tomb at Saqqara came across a small carved wooden object and gave it a simple label, bird model. Nothing about it seemed unusual, so it was placed in storage inside the Cairo Museum, where it remained for nearly 70 years. Then, in 1969, Egyptian physician and aviation enthusiast Khalil Messiha picked it up and noticed one detail nobody had questioned before. The tail was vertical. Birds don't fly with vertical tail fins, but aircraft do. Looking closer, he found more weird features, like a streamlined body, upward angled wings, and a flat wing profile better suited to gliding than to copying a real bird. Messiha built a replica, and later tests showed it could produce measurable lift. Egyptologists still identify the object as a stylized falcon connected with the god Horus, and there is good reason for that interpretation. But why does this single carving contain several aerodynamic features missing from the countless wooden birds made throughout ancient Egypt? Number 1. The mysterious jade masks. Long before China's first emperors ruled the land, someone was carving the same strange face into jade with rare consistency. Large circular eyes, a broad nose, and a simple mouth appear again and again on Liangzhu artifacts discovered inside elite burials. At first, they seem like ordinary decorations. Then you notice something unusual. Some masks are incredibly clean, with smooth raised lines and perfect symmetry. Others appear much busier, filled with extra carvings that almost look like they were added afterward. That small difference has led some researchers to wonder whether they were created at different times. Could the earliest masks have belonged to an older tradition that was later reworked by the Liangzhu people? No one knows. Even the identity of the face remains a mystery. Was it a ruler, a protective spirit, an ancestor, or something totally forgotten? Well, that's all from us. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe. Thanks for your time. Take care, and we'll see you soon.